Welcome to Habitly Courses, a production of Manage to Win. Each course is divided into multiple lessons for easy viewing. All are now completely free, so you can watch them on your own or work through them as a team. Please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and share your favorite lessons with others. Try to find something that helps you be your best. Everyone travels in life. You go from point A to point B many times a day. How do you get there? That's the question. Well, if you're like me, first of all, you know where you are, and then you choose a destination. And then you got to plan how to get there. So if I'm just going from San Francisco to Napa Valley, that's pretty easy, straightforward. I go up 101, take Highway 37, hop over on one of two different options to get over to Napa or Sonoma, whatever I want. However, what if I'm going on a longer trip? What if I've got a bigger goal? And that is, I'm going to go from San Francisco, California to Austin, Texas. A trip like that's going to take much longer and requires careful planning. It takes about 35 hours to drive from San Francisco, California to Austin, Texas. Why do I know this? Well, I got stuck in Austin on 9/11 for 3-4 days. Anyway, first you plan the route and hotels for overnights. Choose a few stops along the way, and then you create a shopping list to fully stock your car with food and essentials. A successful trip is completed in multiple stages when it's a big trip. You drive for a period of time, stop, take a break, confirm you're on track to your destination, then start driving again. In a similar way, each person's life is a journey with thousands of stops between each respective point A and point B. Everyone dreams of achieving big things on their journey. Some people journey far, while others barely venture out of their comfort zone. Setting goals allows you to break down big leaps in your journey into measurable, achievable tasks, with each task representing the work required to get from one stop to the next. It gives you a map to follow, and it improves your rate of success. Furthermore, achieving your goals is personally fulfilling. It gives you a sense of accomplishment, joy, and satisfaction. Let's take a moment to consider some of the science and research related to setting and achieving goals. Setting goals is powerful because when we set goals, we become invested in them. By deciding an outcome is desirable, a part of our brain actually believes it's an essential part of our identity and sets up the conditions needed to motivate us towards achieving it. Let's focus on 3 aspects of the science behind goal achievement. First, research indicates human beings have difficulty discerning between things we want and the things we already have. This problem presents itself when we define a goal. The goal exists, but the outcome hasn't been achieved yet, and our brain senses that something is missing. Our brains conclude, in process, unachieved goals are lost, valued possessions, and this sense of loss creates a tension that drives us to complete the goal. Second, we all have a neurotransmitter called dopamine. It's a powerful reward system that acts as a natural motivator in our brains. You get a hit of dopamine every time something occurs that makes you feel valued or accomplished. This is why defining goals as a series of milestones and tasks is important. Each time a milestone or task is achieved, we get a little dopamine rush that inspires us to complete the next task in the sequence. Lots of software applications and mobile devices take advantage of this fact. Games and social media use bright colors, fun sounds, and creative objectives to urge you on to the next step or additional content. Your phone buzzes or dings when a new message arrives, and your email client shows a small pop-up on your screen each time you get a new email. Oh, somebody cares. These applications and devices are designed to be addictive, to make your brain release dopamine and seduce you to return again and again. That's why you can't get off your phone. The same is true of setting and achieving goals. Defining goals creates an expectation and a motivation in our brain to complete them. Then we experience a reward and satisfaction fueled by dopamine every time we complete a task, reach a milestone, and achieve the overall objective. Third, and finally, we are greatly influenced by the endowment effect. The endowment effect causes us to place a larger value on something we own rather than something we don't. One of the most common examples of the endowment effect is from a Cornell University study by Daniel Kahneman, Jack Kench, and Richard Thaler. It involved giving participants a coffee mug and then offering them the chance to sell it or trade it at equal value. Participants, they found, required twice as much in compensation to sell the object they owned compared to how much they were willing to pay to acquire it. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Scientists call this disparity the endowment effect. The endowment effect causes us to covet ownership of something and ascribe more value to it simply because, hey, it's mine. When something becomes ours, it becomes integrated with our identity, and we're reluctant to part with it. Similarly, when we set goals, we take ownership of our future. We create a map towards desirable objectives, and that map becomes part of our identity. The simple act of setting goals makes them personal and valuable, increasing our drive to complete them. This is why teams that set clear, measurable goals with accountability generate 3 times the results of teams without goals. That's a statistic from Workable. Another study says you waste 30% of your capacity and performance potential when you're not driven to achieve something specific, a specific objective, a target, something out there in the future. Therefore, goals are not an option if you want to be your best and love what you do. There's a lot more to the science behind goals, but one thing is clear. Defining and pursuing clear, measurable goals with accountability enables individuals and teams to thrive. And it's because we're hardwired to achieve meaningful results. Here are a few exercises you can do by yourself or with colleagues. Try to replicate the Cornell study in your office. Give everyone either a mug or a piece of chocolate of equal value, or any 2 items. Yes, buy the stuff and give it to them. Don't let them borrow it and then require it comes back. As in, remember, they get to keep it at the end of the exercise. Then offer to trade them for the opposite item, chocolate for the mug or the mug for the chocolate. Document the results and place them on the wall with the title, The Endowment Effect Study. Use the results to illustrate how taking ownership of something makes it more valuable to the owner. Okay, let's try a different exercise. We'll call it 1B, about setting goals and avoiding pain. I want you to think of a time in which your company or an individual on your team unintentionally put themselves into a bad situation. In general, what are 1 to 3 goals you could have defined and achieved that would have enabled your company or the individual to avoid that situation? For example, we didn't document our billable hours well enough, and as a result, our billing got messed up, clients were upset, and revenue was lost. One solution is a series of tactical goals to avoid this situation. Number 1, better define standards for time entry. Number 2, train people new habits for time entry. Number 3, observe people demonstrating the new skills. Really important. Don't just do the knowledge transfer. Make them show you they can apply what they learned. And then number 4, improve accountability and possibly incentives for people to properly and promptly enter their time. One final exercise. I'm calling it 1C, going from point A to point B. So first, what I want you to do is define one point A. It's where you are today with something. It can be anything, okay, work-wise. You can do this personally, separately, but right here we're talking about work. Now, number 2, I want you to define a corresponding point B. It's somewhere you want to be. Now, you can do this individually or you can do the exercise as a team. What I'm suggesting is that this point B is a top priority, maybe your only priority. This exercise is not for general tasks. Don't worry about writing point B perfectly as a goal. That's not what we're doing right now. Just in general, what's your point A, the status of something you want to change or improve at, and what is its point B? What's it going to look like after it's improved? And then number 3, I want you to define a realistic due date to achieve point B. That's all I want you to do in this exercise. You kind of just get a feel for it. What's a point A? What's a point B? What's a realistic time frame? Start there. This concludes lesson 1. In lesson 2, we'll talk about how to write goals. But first, I want you to take the exam for this lesson. Next, please consider how specific goals and objectives can focus your work and boost your productivity. Do you currently have goals? If so, how are you doing on those goals? What tasks do you think about but never seem to get around to doing? And if you don't have goals, what goals might you create for yourself now, both personally and professionally? Your next step, pass the exam. Then continue on to the next lesson. We're going to dive a little bit deeper, a lot of fun. I'm going to teach you how to write killer goals that improve your life and advance your career.